Bradley's was a bar at 70 University Place, west side of the street between 10th and 11th Street. And it was operated by a gentleman named Bradley Cunningham, who had previously owned the premises of the 55 Bar, which independently of him has become a very distinguished venue in New York, an experimental venue. But he opened Bradley's in 1969. I know a bit about this because I wrote a long article about Bradley's in 2006, where I interviewed a lot of people, including Bradley Cunningham's widow, Wendy, who ran the place in the 8 years, I believe it was, after Bradley died. Now, I did not know Bradley. He was a big guy and he had a very large personality. Initially, Bradley's was a duo room for the first 17, 18 years because of the cabaret laws in New York City, which prohibited using drums in certain locations and certain type of venues. That would be a whole video unto itself on the cabaret law. But they got a spinet piano after. At first it was like a guitar piano room. Then they got a spinet piano. And then as the 70s went on, after a couple of years, all of a sudden it became like the main duo room in New York, along with a place called the Knickerbocker, which was 2 blocks south of Bradley's on the other side of the street, a restaurant. So Bradley's, in the daytime, they had a lunch crowd. The Village Voice was across the street from it. People from the Voice would bring people for lunch there. It was, and then at night it became this place where great duo players. Barry Harris was there on Sundays. Jackie Byard had a sinecure on Sunday. Cedar Walton played there a lot. Jimmy Rolls became a regular there. And I'm going to miss names. I actually have a sessionography of Bradley's that Wendy Cunningham compiled, and it's kind of fascinating. But it became the main spot, and it became a place where people would go after their gigs because they had a 2 a.m. set. It would go till 3. And social mores being what they were in the 70s and 80s, it could go much later than 4 a.m., quite often. And by the 80s, Tommy Flanagan was playing there, Hank Jones, Red Mitchell, Kenny Barron, just a who's who of New York pianists. There were a lot of duo rooms in New York because of the cabaret laws. There's the West Boondock, I think, had duos. There were a number of places. But Bradley's, had that, was in the Village, and it was easy to get to. Wendy Cunningham and around the time I started coming in, started bringing in drummers because the cabaret laws were overturned. A lot of people didn't care for that development, but I sort of liked it because you could sit as far as I am from you from Billy Higgins or Idris Muhammad or Ben Riley or Louis Nash or a lot of people. And she also started bringing in younger musicians. So Roy Hargrove and Christian McBride and Jeff Keezer, people like that, Danilo Perez, Jackie Terrison, Stephen Scott, people like this all got, Bradley's for them was a real training ground. It's a place where, they describe, they'd play the bridge of a song and somebody would say, no, the bridge goes that way, you do it this way, or no, this should be in that key. And it was, that post-grade, so it was a place where those sorts of things would happen. And it was a place where it became Gary Barth described it as kind of the analogous to Beefsteak Charlie's in the early 60s, where you'd go there and that's where you'd pick up a gig or drop off bread for a gig or, that sort of thing. So there was that aspect as well. So it was a very freewheeling place. It stayed open till 4. And you could learn a lot by going there regularly. It was so it was an interesting time.